Brothers, sisters, I'd like to speak now of a philosophical diet, one that I partake in and one that I think you should as well. Now, let me be clear. When I say philosophical diet, I'm speaking of rules to live by, things that we digest mentally, so in our psyche, in our very being, not necessarily our body, though we can see the parallels here. Now, we all have the same pieces. It's all about which pieces you use to make your daily meal of universal reflection. The meat of the meal is what we always tell ourselves. It fills us up, feeds our muscles of willpower, and we crave its substance because the affirmations are comforting. The vegetables with the vital nutrients and the real source of the protein we only think we get from the meat is questioning what we think we know and seeking the answers. Most people don't eat their vegetables, but this is what cultural and religious dogma, the meat, lessens and recycles. Most people have their willpower built upon the meat of religion or cultural reassurances, such as the blind faith in a savior, a prophet, or even the assurance of the universe being balanced by the force of karma. In my own tradition, myself being Hindu, of course, I am not biased when it comes to analyzing myself on these points, that's for sure. And whether true or not, the idea, all our prayers are heard. But what we must notice about this is that meaty dogma and these juicy reassurances is that to continue with this analogy, however strangely committed I seem to be to this analogy, is that these stay in the system and are hardest to expel. Such things are designed that way in order to constantly mentally reinforce their messages, referring to cultural and religious dogma. And they are very hard to expel, just like meat, but they're hard to get out of our system, especially if we're raised with them. It becomes a process of reprogramming ourselves if we want to step outside of everything we were told was true and try to figure out for ourselves what is truth. Finally, we reach the greatest fuel for universal reflection. If we are to eat a balanced meal, we must have a large amount of the carbohydrates. That is compassion. Should we not fuel ourselves with compassion, making it that which drives us, our reflections die. For it is in others, in our that our system's alignment, a symbiosis, finds this symbiosis with the universe. It is in others, in our connection to them, that we find a universal existence that relies on one another, that always has, but we start to realize it. When we allow ourselves to feed on the carbohydrates of compassion, we start to feel ourselves as the thread in the fabric of reality, instead of an isolated piece. Now, thus our fuel is eternal. Our vegetables keep us honest, and our meat must always be self-poached. Meaning, if we're going to make cultural or religious dogma, we should compose it. We should have our own dogma, one that we tell ourselves but do not force on other people. In other words, we should poach our own meat in this analogy. Now, this has been a rather extraneous, for some people, I imagine, analogy, but I hope its truth provides you with some useful dietary information and allows you to live a healthy life, a philosophical diet, a human life. Seek well on a full belly, brothers and sisters, because if we do not figure out how our mind works, from where our motives come, and our connection to all things, and what drives our willpower, then it'll be very hard for us to live in this world. It is best we hash out who we are and allow ourselves to evolve as a person continuously as we go into the future. Never become stagnant. Never allow dogma, even one that you founded for yourself, hold you back. Because that's the chains that are self-made are some of the worst. Because we fool ourselves. And the ones that are made by other people, the religious and cultural dogma, those are bad as well. So we must find a balance, one that we are not confined in, one that allows us to have our fully adapted being to our path, but also one that is not bound by the preconceptions that increase our willpower, that increase our compassion, that increase our ability to see with clarity. Thank you very much, and I hope all of you have a great day.